following may be based on fact, fiction, science, or otherwise. We present that which is researched and that which is believed to be accurate and true. Professor Truth, guests, and associates may not agree on all viewpoints expressed, implied, or misunderstood by the reader or listener from the content communicated in any format. The information presented is for educational and philosophical purposes only, based solely on the spiritual precepts of the King James Bible, as elucidated by the original language word studies and the anointing of the Holy Spirit of Jesus Christ, Father God in the flesh. Isaiah 9:6. The SCET Chronicles will go where no one has gone before. Due to the extreme nature of the content presented, it is important to pray before watching or listening to this series as we deal with the supernatural reality and warfare that comes against mankind. As with all of the shows which Professor Truth produces, the SCET Chronicles' purpose is to expose the reality of the nefarious war ongoing for the born-from-above souls of our Creator, Jesus Christ. We really do live in a matrix designed to blind the minds to the spiritual battle raging with diversions and distractions. Seek God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and have no other gods before Him. Pray the blood of Jesus Christ as your covering and the Holy Spirit as your guide. Finally, put on the full armor of God as described in Ephesians chapter 6. And by the blood of Jesus Christ, we pray. So be it.
Hello?
Hello, this is Professor Truth trying to get a hold of Lieutenant Colonel SC.
This is Lieutenant Colonel SC.
Is this a good time?
What's happening, man?
Is this a good time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it sure is. Well, they're really playing this 11-11 up for tomorrow.
I think what's going on here, like Elenin was a real event, and you told me it got nuked, remember?
Yeah, it did.
Because your people told you that, right?
Yeah, you know what they hit it with? 2 500-megaton bombs. 500 megatons. They were afraid the shockwave was going to mess up the magnetic field around the Earth.
You mean nuclear?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are big.
That's 500 million tons of TNT.
But they were...
That's 1,167,000,000 sticks of dynamite.
But you're sure they were nuclear?
Yeah.
Because,
yeah,
see, that was a real event, and I think what they're doing is they're letting the Christians and the truth seekers get all...
Make us look like idiots.
Make us look like idiots.
Yeah.
And while you're not yet in your quiet zone...
I am in my quiet zone.
Okay, but let me just tell you one theory I have. You recall in about 1999, 2000, when Stephen Greer did his first disclosure project. It was his first one, and he had Carol Rosenberg or Carol Rosenbaum, something.
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay, well, Carol worked with von Braun, and she stated...
He was a Nazi.
Right, when he was. But she worked directly face-to-face with him, and she, swore on the Bible under testimony, said he told her, Carol, don't get all excited. First, we're going to have the Cold War. Then we're going to have a terrorist threat. Then it'll be the asteroids. And then we're going to play the alien card. And we're just in the phase of their plan called the asteroids.
That's right. I heard similar to that. I didn't hear it that detailed, but I heard von Braun had said something to her about it. And it's just like them telling me who the presidents were. This has all been scripted out. I've been trying to tell everybody on this radio show, this has all been scripted out. And these asteroids and stuff, they've known for centuries. I mean, before we've had the Hubble and all this, they've known for centuries, back in the Bible days, about the stars.
Right, but some of them, I think they're actually steering. If you want to know my opinion.
Yeah, HARP does it. HARP's and this is what I heard just recently. I didn't know it, but HARP knows how to steer satellites in the atmosphere now. I mean, in the space.
Satellites or asteroids?
Satellites. So I imagine they're doing it with asteroids. but they're steering satellites off of collision courses or on collision courses because China, they shot one down, remember?
Yeah.
Recently to show us where we showed them that we can steer them with currents. But we can see there is no current in space. They must be using magnetic field.
Or they're using the 0-point energy. It's not. It is magnetics, but it's a form of scalar physics.
Yeah, I understand 0-point energy and so much of it, not all of it.
The entire universe is toroidal spinning torexes. At the macro and microscopic and quantum level, everything is spinning. Okay.
Right.
And then
it's just like Stuart Best, I think, is the one who talks about the swirl.
Basically, yeah, but he's talking on the macro level. I'm talking about to such a small level you can't even see it.
Yeah, the micro level, everything's spinning.
And then on top of that, there's what I call carrier waves. So our reality is vibrating at frequency X. If you modulated our reality on a carrier wave that was 100,000 million times faster, we would still be the frequency X, but we would be on a carrier wave like they do AM frequency modulation. And then all of a sudden, nobody would see us anymore, and that's called a different dimension.
Yeah, and on top of the spinning, we're expanding. The universe is expanding.
Well, that's what they believe. I've seen.
I believe that.
I've seen arguments on both sides. They use what's called the redshift to conclude that, and I've seen.
Well, here's what I don't believe about it. The moon's the same distance, the sun's the same distance, and if it's expanding, that means the solar system's expanding, not the planets or the stars.
I'm not going to say it's not expanding, but I'm not convinced.
I don't believe it is.
I'm not convinced that it is. I know that they use this thing called the redshift infrared and high band IR and low band IR. That's
just like my theory with light being instantaneous. I'm 100% sure that's what it is.
See, that's what it is. You're onto it.
Because God is instantaneous.
Yeah, you're onto it there. So you figured it out.
Because if it was true, the third heavens is supposed to be past space, right? Where God's throne is. Outside space.
No, Christ said heaven is among you.
Right, the kingdom of heaven is, but I'm talking about the heaven where God's throne is.
It's among us too, Colonel. It's just it's in a different dimension.
Right, okay, but for example, let's say God was out in space. Let's just say that. That would mean if you prayed to him, it would take so many light years for your prayer to get there. And I just don't believe it. I just believe that light is instantaneous. There is no speed to it. It's just instant. Because when God said, "Let there be light," there was.
No, you're exactly right in the realm of where God's dimension is. But in our dimension, we can measure light. So we know light in this dimension has a speed. I mean, you can measure it. But you're correct, though. You're correct. It's just we may live. Our existence may be a big holographic video game. Who knows?
Yeah, a lot of people used to say we're in a dream of God. I don't believe that because God never sleeps. But I just believe that God wrote this book about us, and I got to think about it. We're His prized possession. You know why? He's got everything under heaven watching us. And they screwed up the watchers, the angels. They all came to watch us and make sure that we were protected. So we must be His prized possession.
Well, that's true, but,
I mean, the angels didn't watch the angels.
Well, are you one of us, or are you an angel? Or are you when you die? Are you going to be back in it as an angel, or are you going to be one of us?
That I don't know. I just don't know. It's funny because when you go there, those things there's nothing that comes to mind except what God's agenda is. You can't think and free. In other words, it's almost like not having free will. You're there. And you know why you're there. And there's no other subject brought up. You understand what I'm saying?
You just know where you are, and there's nothing to talk about.
And you know what we're there for. Right. And we get instructions to be instructed.
I mean, is it like battle instructions, like warfare instructions?
Yeah, most of the time it is. It's a lot of warfare.
How often do you go to these meetings?
I not very often, but when you do go to one, it's just abrupt, and you just don't. You don't know.
I mean, it just happens?
Yeah, and it doesn't happen in the middle of a conversation or nothing. It happens when you're laying in bed or something. All of a sudden, you're there.
Okay.
I hate coming back.
And have you seen Alex at these?
Yeah, and I've seen a bunch of other people that I know, and it's like when you go there, the sadness of knowing that you have to come back, because I can see the earth.
Are you in the same clothes? Or are you in white gowns or something?
No, I'm same clothes.
Because I know Alex said he's been to the White Throne and everybody's in white gowns.
No, I've never been to the White Throne. I've been in the council rooms, what they call it, but I'm with my clothes on. I'm not worthy enough to go any further than that.
You think
I'm a warrior, is what I am. I'm a soldier.
Is Alex more worthy? Would he be able to go in the White Throne?
No, he's an information warrior. I'm a fighter.
Why would he be able to go to the White Throne?
I don't know.
Because he says he's been there several times.
He may have.
But anyway,
I don't know of anybody that went. But I'm a fighter. I'm a soldier.
You told me once you thought you remembered seeing Zeph Daniel, and he was he didn't want to volunteer, and he was in a different group. Do you remember that?
Yeah, but I don't understand it.
What do you remember?
That's all. But I don't remember much of it, Paul. There's not much I can say about it.
You remember you and others, and then what I remember you told me the first time, there was a group maybe off to your left or right, and it's kind of like, who's going to volunteer? And everybody steps back and you're left standing forward.
Yeah, well, listen to this. I'm one of his top warriors. I'm not like Michael and Gabriel and them, but on the earth, there's a bunch of us. We're his top warriors. We're not afraid of nothing.
How do you know that?
We know because when he calls a meeting, when we're in the council room, there's different stages, and we're just in high command. And I think that's what made me do so well here on Earth. I mean, I was afraid of nothing, Paul. In my book, you'll see when they were doing mortar strikes, all the guys were bedded down, and I was standing up walking, and they'd be exploding behind me and stuff, and it didn't even make me jump. It's like I knew that I was my destiny. And I finally figured out, and I told this to a church that I spoke to one time, a long time ago, once you know your destiny, you're immortal until it's carried out.
Now, did you see bullets going through you, or is that just a testimony of your men?
That was the testimony of the men.
Because I did.
But I remember seeing the tracers and wondering how they could have missed me. I mean, there was just warfare's rough, man. And when it cracks down on you like that, all you can think. I mean, it's unexplainable, the fear. It's just unexplainable. And then you get to a part where you've been in it so long, you think, I might actually make it out of here. I've been doing this for so long. That's what we call professional soldiers. And then, like I did when I walked through the mortars, I'll never forget that day. Them guys said that the mortars were landed 50 feet behind me, exploding. I wasn't even jumping. I was walking right over there, giving up a guy who was froze up. He was scared. And I wasn't mad. I understood. He thought I was going to be mad, and I understood. And I was trying to tell him to get up and fire a round, and he couldn't. I said, fire a round. Just fire one round. And he got up and fired a round, and it broke him, and he started shooting. But I was standing up. I was the only one standing up, and bullets were flying everywhere, and they said mortars were going up. They thought they knew for sure I was going to get blown up.
Is that the time you saw the tracers going through you, or is that another time?
Yeah, and that's the ones I seen miss me. They were coming at my face. I'll never forget that. That's something you'll never forget. And when it goes by, it sounds like a firecracker because it's breaking the sound barrier. And it makes a deafening sound. It sounds just like a firecracker went off in your ear.
I'm trying to think of who I talked to that was one of your men that validated your story. It's been a while, but he said he saw holes in the front of your clothes and holes in the back, but nothing in you.
Yeah. And then I talked to a guy today. I can't wait till this guy calls. He was a Marine sniper, Mackey, and tall redhead guy. And here I am. I called to pay the bill, and he said, Greg Wrenchich, he says, and this is in Arkansas. He goes, you're Lieutenant Colonel SC, aren't you? And I go, how'd you know that? He goes, one of your buddies was a sniper with you, a Marine guy, Mackey. And I said, Mackey, tall redhead guy? And he goes, yeah. I said, what are the chances of that, man? He said, 2 weeks ago, Mackey said, I seen a man, his name was Lieutenant Colonel Greg Wrenchich. They called him SC because couldn't pronounce his last name. He said, I seen him make a 5,033-yard shot. And see, Mackey had made a 3,018-yard shot, and there was just no way, that was the record. And we were really friendly about it. He was a Marine, and I was Army. We didn't care. But me and him were buddies. We were pretty tight. And I said, give me a tracer. And I said, a long-line tracer. That means it stays lit for a long time. It doesn't go out. And I shot, I in a standing position, and I guessed, and I fired that round, and I arched it 769 feet. And then when it came down, the crosswind caught it and curved it just like a baseball and went right in the guy's neck at 5,033 yards.
Is that your world record?
That's a world record shot for anything. There was something on the internet the other day. It says, a new world record's been set by an Army sniper at 1,500 yards. Shit. We were shooting olives at 1,500 yards. We shoot golf balls at 1,500 and 2,000 yards.
Yeah, that's disinformation because I can't go into it, but I'm aware of some of those things too.
Yeah, you don't need to go into it. I know about it, and they just try to discredit. My files. Daniel Ott's the only one that's been able to get anything out of my files. I think Alexander got some of it from Latin America.
How did Ott get any look at your files? I thought your files.
I don't know, but he told me some things that he shouldn't have known. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
and he said I was very credible.
How did he find out? Does he got contacts?
He just said he did some checking on me and knew that I was very credible. that the stuff I say was credible.
I've got a lot of things. What I'm trying to do here, Colonel, is I wanted to go over some of the subjects, not everything we've talked about, but some of the things we talked about in the past that I didn't get a good recording on or something. But are we scrambled, by the way?
Yeah, we're scrambled big time.
Okay, good. One thing, just to break the ice on this, the other day you told me even Chuck Missler had been abducted. Where did you hear that?
Chuck said him and his wife were both abducted on one of the videos that you sent me.
Is that right?
Yeah. He said, not only do I believe in UFOs, me and my wife were abducted by one.
Wow.
Yeah, so Chuck has been abducted before. And I think he remembers his experience pretty well.
Okay.
It was pretty traumatic for him. He said it was a traumatic, demonic experience.
Okay, we're going to keep this rolling. Next topic. The other day we were finishing off on the clones at El Toro, and it was getting late, and you were starting to fall asleep. So, can you kind of go through that a little more, like how I think you told me at one time 20 to 23 lined up. Can you start at the beginning? And
yeah, I was told that a colonel was coming up with his wife,
and you were at
somewhere there. Okay, I just know I was in. I got helicoptered in, and I never got to go outside of the baseline. I never got to go to a bar, nothing. I was just there and in the barracks.
So you might not even have been there, but that's where the...
Yeah, I was there. I know where I was.
Okay.
Anyway, they had me planted, and they said, a colonel's coming up here with his wife, and he's going to check the cloning out. Said, have you seen it? And I said, no. I said, I don't give a shit what it is. Cloning... I said, I've seen so much stuff right now, I really don't care. I said, what do you want me to do? They said, if that colonel looks like he's going to get in the car, he looks like he has a rough look on his face, you look at me, if I blink my eyes twice, you blast him and his wife's head off.
I think you told me the first time that if some corporal put his finger up in the air, but blink his eyes twice, okay.
Yeah, blink. It might have been, but it's one or the other. I've had, but that's, usually it's the eyes. Because it's more, they use eyes for Morse code. We used to use Morse code, which I don't remember much anymore, but when we used to talk to each other, snipers, we'd use Morse code with our eyes. But anyway, so this, here he come on time, and there's a car behind him. And on the radio, they said, take out that guy in the car back there, use a high explosive, and shoot him in the tank, and try not to kill the guy. Well, I put a high explosive round in there and got ready to fire, and somebody blew the guy's head off, one of the other snipers. I guess he didn't hear on the radio not to do it. We were going to blow the gas tank up, and just get him alive and interrogate him.
Somebody else got him and tore him up. But I think we've jumped ahead a little bit because...
no, that's the beginning.
Okay, well then you're going to get into when the clones are walked out.
This is what I'm saying. The colonel was coming up in the car. And like expected. And I was in open view at about 1,650 yards. I think it was 1,672 yards. It was real close in between 1,650 and 1,672.
Now this was at nighttime.
No, this was day.
Okay.
But this was daytime. And all these broads came out, man. They looked, I never seen there's about 20, 23 of them, and I just never seen anything so beautiful in my life. And
where'd they come out of?
Of like a armored vehicle. The back opens up.
Okay, was that already there? Did it drive up?
No, it drove up, and it opened up, and all these beautiful women with long blonde hair and not blue eyes. I'm talking about, I zoomed in at 60 times where I could see their eyes. They were violet. That was the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. And they had one of them had a freckle by her nose. They all looked the same, freckle and all.
So they were clearly clones, violet eye and blonde hair.
Mm-hmm. And so this other colonel, his wife walked by, and they're inspecting. And I'm curious about the wife. What's she doing here? So I got my crosshairs on her and watching the whole thing. And I'm trying to read his lips, and I see him say, I think this is what I say, watch the obedience of them. And he pointed at one and gave her an order of some kind, and she was smiling, and she went in front of another one, and she was smiling, and she pulled out a .45 and shot her in the head, and they were both still smiling. And then she went back into line. And the colonel shook hands with the other colonel, and he looked at me blinked with one eye, which meant everything was cool.
Wow.
But I never seen anything like that before in my life. I mean, I never seen such beauty in my life. I mean, Anita couldn't be that pretty. I just never seen anything like it in my life.
And you had mentioned, so the one they shot obviously fell over, but...
Yeah, it blew the back of her brains out, and it was red blood and everything. But the funny thing about it is, and I never said this before, is 4 days later, they were showing them up again, but there was nobody shot this time, to some general. And there was 23 of them again. Same amount, so I don't know if they refixed her. I don't know.
Well, that
I mean, I can't. And they had an earthquake machine there. And you know what? What's funny about it is after I told about this earthquake machine, there was a guy in Art Bell, a colonel, that said he went up there and seen the same thing I did. No lie.
Saw the earthquake machine.
Yeah, and we seen it running. And they had a place there where the UFOs came in and out. I don't know, it was like a maintenance and a rehydration building is what I was told. But these UFOs used to come out of the water, out of the sea, and go into this place almost like a gas. I don't know what it was, but they came in and out constantly, all different shapes, sizes, everything.
Okay, wait, that's at it's 200 miles from the ocean.
Yeah, but that's why I say they came out of the sea, and they went in and out of this blind spot kind of thing. I can't explain it.
Okay, you're in the middle of the desert, and they're coming out of what?
They come out of the ocean.
But you can't see the ocean from...
Yeah, you can with my scope.
Okay, because it's over.
My scope went to 127 power.
Okay,
It was like a telescope.
So,
I mean, and I could see them coming, so I just zoomed in, and they just came up from the water, and they came up, and no water dripped off them or anything. It was like they were in an argon bubble. I don't understand it.
okay, because you would have to be looking over the mountain ridge, and over the mountain ridge, then you get to the ocean.
Right, and then but they went into a blind spot on the other side of the mountain ridge. Is what I'm trying to say, and I didn't. I was afraid to look because I was told to stay put. You know, and I don't know if they put me in that position because there's really nothing to protect. You know, you've been there. What's there to protect? There ain't nobody getting in and out of there.
Yeah, I didn't see anything except a few buildings. I was there for some.
Well, these didn't go in a building. They went into the ground. The ground opened up. I took a sneak peek and hoped they didn't see me. And that's all I just seen real quick, you know. And I went back right, but the ground opened up like a circular, big. I don't know, maybe 300 yards in diameter, and it would just slide open, and these things are coming in and out of there.
Was it like the ground
like
was
yellow jackets or some shit? I don't know.
The ground was holographic and then just transformed into
no. It made noise. It was a machine. What it did was it countersunk about 1 foot and then slid open like a slide.
Oh, I see. So it was fake ground on the top.
Mm-hmm. It was fake ground on top. Damn, did it blend in. When that thing clicked into place, you couldn't, I mean, I zoomed in as tight as I could, and I couldn't see a thing.
So it just sunk down, and it slid open, and they went in there.
Yeah.
You say like yellow jackets, or there were a lot of them?
Yeah, just like yellow jackets. You know how they go in and out of the holes? That's how many was going in and out of there. At first, I thought they were aircraft, but they didn't make no noise. And I was like, what the hell? I really never paid attention. And one day, I was looking at the scope, and they were flying saucers. And
well, you know, they could have been our black projects because
no, they weren't. They weren't.
Because
they weren't.
We have things like that.
But they weren't.
You're sure? You know that?
I'm sure. I've seen too many. I can tell that. I'd be able to tell. You just know by the feeling, Paul, of the evil. You know, I'm going to see a doctor, and he talked to me the other day. You know, check this out. He's wanting me to help him, the psychiatrist, work with Army post-traumatic war syndrome and MK Ultra victims that he's got, and that's all he works with.
And you're going to just kind of talk to him because
he wants me to coach him through the MK Ultra thing because he's got two of them already committed suicide in the last month, and he really wants to help these guys, so he cut off all civilians. And so I told him I needed Sarge there with me because Sarge is pretty good at apprehending and calm them down because when you put them in hypnotherapy, sometimes they remember something that makes them go berserk and violent, and you got to calm them down real quick.
So are you saying that a majority or a high percentage of Army and other military people are MK Ultra? He's
got 112 patients. They're all MK Ultras.
Well, that's not a big percentage of the military. I'm thinking...
No, I'm talking 42 of them are civilians.
Okay, your phone's buzzing, but...
42 of them are civilians, and they're just... I mean, I live in a small town. You know where I live. That's a lot of patients right here.
Oh, that's just for where you live.
That's just right here.
So 42 are civilians, and the rest of 117 are military, and they're all...
112, yeah.
They're all MK Ultra.
MK Ultra. And he listened to one of my interviews and called yesterday, Dr. Beasley, psychiatrist, and he goes, he said, Sergeant told me, Colonel, that you're about to implode yourself. You think you're coming out with this book. He says, I think me and you can work something out, and I'll pay you handsomely. And I said, what do you need? And he goes, I need help with these MK Ultra patients. I need you to sit down with me for a couple of months. 8 hours a day, I'll pay you. And we need to go over, and I'm going to show you some films of some. And he said, I got one guy here that's had 790 drops of LSD. I've got a lot of LSD patients from the Army, too. And I need you to tell me what I'm seeing on this film. I've got them under hypnosis, and they're going back, and they're telling. I want you to explain to me what they're seeing. I don't understand it. Some of them were from Area S4, and they're telling me some things about levels of ground that they went under and the horrific things that they seen. And I had 2 suicides already from a Dulce base, a place called Dulce. Do you know about that? And I go, yes. He goes, well, they committed suicide, right? One of them did it in my office.
Are you sure that this guy doesn't already know all this and he's just testing?
No, he doesn't know it. He doesn't. He was fascinated about Jeff, and then Jeff told him about me, and so he actually cut off, and then his secretary called me and hooked me up with him. He was in New York. No, he's a regular doctor. They call him Dr. B because a lot of people used to go see him, but he cut everybody off except the military.
So
he's getting cheated. He's
going to use your expertise because you'll be able to tell him what they saw,
right?
Because you saw it,
and I'll be able to talk to him as a commander. He doesn't know how to, and say, "Okay, Sergeant, now where are you right now? This is 1978, and you're at Fort Benning, and you said they gave you LSD. So who gave you the LSD? Blah, blah, blah. Okay? So is it taking effect now? Yes. What do you feel like? You see, you got to talk them through this to find out what the root of the problem is, because it isn't the LSD, it's something that they did.
Right, and you obviously you have to recognize that there's going to be demons and other layers of altars in there.
That's right, because he's in hypnotherapy, so that's opening a doorway.
So does this psychiatrist, is he aware of the demonic realm?
He said, yeah. He strongly believes in demons, and he does believe in God. Not in the way I do, but he says, I'm fixing to learn a quick lesson I can see. I said, now, some of this stuff could manifest, especially in the abduction ones that you have here. And I'd like to film some of the abduction ones and some of the others and send them to a friend of mine named Paul in Pennsylvania. Is that possible? And he goes, you can do whatever you want, Colonel. So I thought maybe you would be interested in seeing it.
Paul,
in case any of them levitate or the grays come, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I would love to see that. That'd be incredible.
So he doesn't care. He's going to let me film it. And he's going to provide the camera, high definition, everything. And I'm going to try. He says he's got this thing. Now, I don't know what it is, but it keeps magnetic waves from making the picture unclear. And I told him we'll need it.
Yeah, I understand that, and I'm glad you mentioned that because you will need it.
And so I'm pretty excited about doing it.
Well, that sounds great. You want to get back onto some of these other topics?
Yeah.
Okay. The last thing you said was the 23 clones, one of them was shot, but the next 4 days later, all 23 were there. That leads,
4 or 5.
That leads,
same girls.
Right, but that leads into something that you and Casbolt told me about before, the Osiris project. And
Slain and Risen.
Slain and Risen. Now, I know that I saw a YouTube video of a snake eating a young girl, but you claimed it was real, and you also had spoken to me when I visited you that you and another guard were at
were present
at one
of those.
You want to tell the story about the general's retirement party?
That was the general's retirement party.
Well, I realize that, but I'm recording, so go ahead.
What we did was we went in and we were asked, and we were handpicked by a panel.
You know where you were?
The 2 guards that were going to be there that had the strongest mind.
And where were you?
That were headstrong, that could take anything. And we really didn't care. We thought, it's just a fucking party. And excuse my French, but I mean, I'm just trying to talk the way we did.
Were you in Australia, or where were you?
No, I was in the United States. And I was in Australia too, but there was other incidents there, but nothing like this. This was totally unexpected. So they're having this party and blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden they dim the lights and this girl comes out and dances, And they turn the lights on brighter and zam, you've seen what I've seen.
Why don't you describe?
And I thought now, the other guy, we are headstrong. But God Almighty.
Yeah, but for anyone listening to this tape, they have no idea you saw what I saw. Go ahead, give the details.
This she's dancing a snake, and what was weird is they usually grab people by the head, but it grabbed her by the legs and sucked her in and cracked her bones, and she didn't even scream. I mean, it was just quick. And there was more than one snake. There was green snakes, and then we looked in this pit, and when it was over with, the general said, "Let me show you something." And they had this pit that was 100 yards by 100 yards square, okay? It had a fence that was 450 feet high, and they had them snakes in there. And so help me God, if they weren't bigger than a football field, I'll kiss your ass.
Okay, because I had thought the first time I heard this version, you and the guard were at the door to keep people from panicking and running out.
Right. Anybody that ran out got shot. But nobody ran out. I mean, it was like they were all used to this stuff. I don't know what we were there for. It could have been a test for us because they had some... You got to remember, when I was in there, whenever you're in Black Ops, everything is a mission and a test. Both. It's a mission, and how you react is the test, and what the next mission you're going to get is going to be.
Because you said you two were standing at the door, and I don't remember the pit, but I remember you saying at there was more than one girl dancing, and that they were like at the other end of this arena, let's just call it, kind of like a auditorium. There was a door, and your buddy you're not supposed to talk, but he kind of suggested, "Hey man, look at that," and there was something in there with big red eyes. Is that?
Yeah. And bam, it came out just like what you seen.
So that...
And everybody says it's fake and this and that. Well, I don't care what they say. I just don't care. I seen it, man, and I heard the bones crushing, and that's a mechanical thing. It was real.
Okay, now
I was scared to death. I wanted to shoot it. I wanted to shoot everybody in there.
But nobody panicked. They thought it was cool.
Nobody panicked. And that's what made us panic a little bit. You know, I was sweating. I threw up when we came out of there. I vomited for 15, 20 minutes. So did he. We never vomited so hard. I vomited till blood came out.
But how could... So the people in there, maybe they were all reptilian in human form.
That's exactly what we all thought, me and him.
That would explain why they had no reaction.
Right.
And maybe the snake...
It was probably one of them.
The snake was a reptilian in a snake form.
Yeah, but my God, you never seen one this big in your life. I swear. His head could have filled the living room. It's just, oh my God. It's one of the things I just don't like to remember. It was just so scary. I was just so scared. I couldn't sleep for so long. And I went to the psych ward because we could check in there anytime we wanted to. And I checked in there, and I said, "You guys got to give me something for sleep." And they gave me 80 milligrams of Valium to go to sleep, and that's what it took to knock me down because of that incident. 80 milligrams of Valium.
And after that incident, did you ever see the general or any of those people again?
Never again.
And where in the United States was that? Do you remember?
It was somewhere in Arizona. We were flown in a helicopter and landed in Arizona somewhere. That's all I know.
Okay.
It got to a point, Spa, where it was just, every time we went somewhere we knew it was going to be creepy, it was like, and excuse my French, but you had to have a fuck it attitude, you know?
Yeah.
They're going to subject me to something that's going to ruin my mind if I let it. So just shut your eyes or shut your mouth.
Or shut your mind.
Right. But you couldn't. It was too incredible of a scene, whatever it was. Whenever time something happened, it was just too incredible. I seen a crocodile one time that was 80 feet long.
Where was this?
Dulce. 80 feet long. It had teeth that were 9 inches long.
Underground?
Yeah.
It was in one of the tanks or places like that?
Yeah, it was in one of the tanks. It wasn't a reptilian or anything. It was just a reptile. You know what I'm saying? It's just something they
breeding
conjured up. Yeah. But what I'm saying is there's hundreds of these things, Paul, and they're going to turn them loose on the earth on everybody. These snakes, all of it.
Okay,
All of it. That's their weapons of the warfare.
yeah, I know. Let's finish up the Osiris project. So the idea was that the snake would eat the girl or eat anybody, or anybody would have a fatality of a traumatic type.
No, that was different. Osiris. You fought a python or something like that that ripped you to pieces. It wasn't one of them snakes. And what the thing was, is it was the adrenaline. Okay? So what they did was they showed you artifacts and things of ancient artifacts of Masonic rituals and different things, and there was a frequency in the air, a noise, and it mesmerized you. It put you in a trance. And then after that, they would put you in a thing to fight, and it'd become just as mean as a lion, believe it or not, because some guys killed the lions, but most of the guys got killed or seriously injured. So they would take the body, and then they would put it in a chair, and there would be another body clone that looked just like the body that was tore up. And while the adrenaline was still flowing, because even after you're dead, the adrenaline flows for around 7 minutes, they would have a laser that would come out of the ceiling, and it would bump the forehead and burn a hole in your pineal gland. It was a laser. And then it would burn on the other one, too, and then there would be like a mechanical arm that came down and plugged a wire in the hole, and you and it, and it would you would be with the adrenaline that it needed, and it would remote view a satellite, and the satellite would remote view the pictures back to a computer that would decipher what the pictures were.
So why did they need to rip the person and kill him?
Because they wanted to bring him back to life. It's necromancy, but it's necromancy. That's what it really is.
Okay, so before he was hooked into this clone through the pineal gland, through a laser and then a wire, and then they used, I guess, the clone to do the remote viewing.
Right.
But
they used his adrenaline because the clone doesn't have adrenaline. All they could use was epinephrine, and it doesn't last long enough like human adrenaline does. And human adrenaline causes an electrical frequency in the brain. And so that's what they needed. And only if you're ripped to shreds or dead even. And then they would bring you back to life with necromancy. When you came back to life, you were... I seen him do a dog. And when they brought the dog back to life, it was a vicious werewolf-like thing. So when you came back, you were like a zombie. You weren't you. You were either slow and zombie-like or mean and just vicious.
So it's really no longer you.
No, you were taken over by demonic spirits. That's what necromancy is.
And so the soul and spirit of the person were really wherever they would have gone.
But they convince everybody that it's soul transference. And it is. It's the soul of the demon.
Yeah.
So what happens is he gets in there, and it just becomes a violent scene, and it's a real mess. You wouldn't want to see it. It's one of those, that and the snake, those are probably about the two worst things that I can ever remember, really.
Well, we're going to keep going down the list. Here's another one. How about the Hall of Horrors? And I don't know if that's related to the Fallujah planning.
Well, let's talk about that one another time. That's a long story.
Okay.
It's really long.
Is that the
it's
same?
It's going to take an hour and a half or two to tell you that one.
Okay.
If you want me to tell you in detail, you'll be the first one I ever did.